Welcome to the Invictus Performance Podcast, where we dive into the behind the scenes of all things performance related. On this episode, we have a really special guest, a badminton player, HS Prannoy. HS Prannoy is a badminton player who we've been working with since 2018. He's has a career high of world number 6. He has a world championship medal, an Asian Games medal, and he competed recently in the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. He's a really special athlete for us because we've been working with him on the strength and conditioning side. Our partners at Potential Health Development have been working with them on the nutrition, and our other partners on the mental conditioning side, behavioral foresight, have been working with him. And he's someone we've been working with closely over the years. A player who is really exceptional and inspirational. His whole journey. He's well known as someone who's a giant killer because he's taken down and played greatest opponents, people from Lin Dan to Victor Axelsen. Varun and I had a really great time with this episode. We got into a lot of aspects, everything from what made him the badminton player he is today, what the future holds for him, technical and tactical aspects of the game, and behind the scenes of what goes on for training and preparation for badminton. This is an episode that you can't miss out on. Tune in.
Yeah, so I'd like to start off, Prannoy. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the very short introduction, I know. But I think today what we're going to do is just kind of have a casual chat and understand a little bit more about some of the other intricacies about your playing career, about the training that you do, so that people can have kind of an insider's view on all the other things that go on behind the scenes, not just what they see on TV. And I think what we start off with is maybe how you got started on your badminton journey and how you realized that this is something that you wanted to do as a profession.
I think at home, Dad used to play badminton pretty not often, but every single day. And he, being in Air Force, he couldn't play professionally, and so he had to kind of only play in say Air Force tournaments and stuff. So once he left Air Force, I think during 2001, 2002, I think that's where I started playing badminton also, because towards the end of his Air Force career, he started to play a lot of outdoor tournaments, which was kind of a big thing back in Kerala. Where
How old were you then?
I was around 8, I would say. Okay. This is like 2000 time. And I remember I've only seen badminton being played outdoors at that point, and the indoor badminton was very less. And we used to play, I think they all used to play at cement courts back in the days, and all the outdoor tournaments used to happen in say clay court kind of a atmosphere. And I think that was the starting point for me, because Dad used to take me to all these tournaments where he used to play doubles, and for my surprise, there used to be a lot of people to watch a badminton match at late night, around 9:30 at night. And so it was very interesting for me at that point. And so that's where I started to play also, probably a year later, 8.5, 9, where I used to go with Dad and play with his friends. And probably the first official coaching camp which I did was when I was around 9.5, 10, and where I learned the basics. Because Dad kind of made me play before itself, I was very quick in learning bases like the grip, the toss, the drop. And I remember the first 6 months itself, I played a tournament like the under 10 state championship. So this is what a rough 2-3 years was when I was from 8 to 10. And so Dad was the main person behind for me to kind of who got me into the sport. Mom was never interested where I was playing the sport, and I think it was all Dad's decision where he wanted me to play. He never thought that we would kind of go ahead with the sport, but initially it was all his decision.
Okay, I mean, I've met your dad and I know how passionate he is about badminton, and how he did play a big role in encouraging you to play the sport. But also, I've heard from my mom's perspective how she's made sure that she's taking care of the recovery, the nutrition, that part of it, making sure you get a lot of the home food and everything else which is there. So, I mean, I've seen the role that your parents have played. But at which point did you think that this is something that you want to do as a, because you were still going to school, you were
Mm.
still
Mm.
doing other stuff, studying, playing some other sports also. But how did you choose badminton as something that you wanted to do long term?
Uh, no, back in the days, as you said, I used to play all the sport and used to play cricket, used to play football, and kind of used to play badminton also in between that, to be honest, in the first couple of years. Uh, but I think from an education perspective, we had a little bit of uh, a doubt on what to choose, definitely, because nobody from my family kind of uh, were us. Or was in sports at that point of time, and nobody had any idea about going professionally in a sport. Even my dad had no idea, but he just wanted me to play at a good level, and I think we didn't think too far at that point. It was like playing a state championship, winning the state championship, and probably I would say I was lucky enough to kind of win few good state tournaments when I was very young, and first couple of tournaments itself I played really well. So that kind of gave a little bit confidence to the parents as such. But the things got a little tough post when I finished my under 13s, and when you get into the sub junior
Mm.
section and when you start playing the national level tournaments, then you realize that okay, this is something which is huge. At that point, I think badminton was slowly kind of getting popular, and we could see the number of kids playing at the national tournament was just huge. And then you go out there and lose in first rounds, and then that process starts where you doubt yourself. The parents starts to doubt on your capabilities, and that definitely came when I was 14, 15. Those 2 years were tough because I knew that if I had to do something, then I had to leave from Trivandrum, because I
Mm.
realized that there's absolutely zero support in Trivandrum, staying in Trivandrum. There, I think we used to buy the shuttles, rackets, and everything we used to do. We used to
Mm.
go and book the courts in clubs, and we had to wait until the club members finished playing late at night around 8:39. Then you get the opportunity to play from 9 to 10 probably.
Yeah.
So this was a good 2-3 years of life at that point, and I hardly used to come and study back because
But according to your mom, you used to be pretty good at studies also.
I
It's not
used to be
like you
pretty
were.
decent, yeah. But
Yeah.
I think I remember for a lot of time I used to do the 4 o'clock session because I used to be in a camp. Then I used to do the 4 o'clock session, come back at home, and then wait for dad at around 6:37. Then again I used to go to play to all these clubs because dad knew that whatever happens in the coaching camp is not enough for you, so he wanted me to go and play separately as such.
Mm.
But I think post under 16, 16, that's where post I got the first call from the national team to saying that I got selected for the under 16 Asian Badminton Championship. That was my first international tournament. I think that gave a lot of good signals for my parents, saying that okay, you have been selected to an Indian team finally, and so there is some kind of scope kind of related to badminton as such. And it was a tough discussion when I had finished my 10th. I scored good marks in 10th, and I spoke to my dad and mom saying that give me 2 years of time, and
Mm.
let me go to Hyderabad because I've got a call from the national camp at that point, and they were taking two best players from the country to train with the seniors.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my chance at that point because I knew I was going to play against the best in the country at that point. And so I told them saying that 2 years, if it doesn't happen, I will come back and study. But
Mm.
if it goes well, then we can decide that point. So that was probably the turning point of my career,
Mm.
and they agreed to it also at that 2 years, saying that 11th and 12th you can take it a little lightly.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't work, then you can come back and study later.
I guess it worked
It
out pretty
worked. Yeah,
pretty
it
well for
worked
you.
out pretty well.
That's quite something.
Yeah.
I mean, just on the same note, like, we always talk about parents' involvement in an athlete's life or in a player's life. Like, to what extent do you think it's a finite balance of, over expectation versus not being too involved in the entire career? So, at what point do you think that what's the parent's role, and at what level do you say that okay, maybe
Ah,
this is a point where
it's a tough it's a tough answer to kind of explain also, because as you said, there got to be a certain line where parents need to be on that certain line from an expectation basis and from an involvement basis also, because right now I am seeing, like, probably in the last 5 years, the involvement with the parents have gone really high, I would say. Parents want to be there with the kids for each and every stage of their career, and see the progress also, like life progress. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen like that in sport. And I can see a lot of parents coming in to national training centers. The kid must be 11, 12, and asking them how many years do they need to train so that they can become a world champion. And I mean, there is
Not
no
national champion,
no,
world
no,
champion.
I mean,
Straight.
yeah, the
Like,
direct question is,
winners.
yeah, I mean, the direct question is, how do you become a world
What's
number
my
one? Yeah,
investment?
what's my investment, and how can she become or he become a Saina or Sindhu in the country? I think that's the first question which comes in, and
Sure.
unfortunately, we don't have an answer for that. And
Which
so
is
I
why
feel,
it's sport. Which is why
yeah,
it's
which is why
interesting.
it is sport, and I think that expectation needs to be definitely lowered down, to a certain extent, because you have to understand that sport works in a way where it is a gradual progress, and it might take years for a lot of people to come into a certain stage. For some, it might come a little early because they might be skilled really well, and especially like a sport like badminton, where skill levels are very important. I think I've seen a lot of players who have played very well when they were under 13, under 16, but couldn't sustain that over a period of time. And there you can see a lot of players have not done anything under, say, when they were 16 or 19, but then suddenly you can see them playing really well after they finish off the under 19. So there is no right and wrong answer for being, for for asking why are you in a certain position at a certain age group, right? uh, I feel it always changes to a lot of factors around, a lot of people who are working with you, and the coach who is working with you. I think all those criteria is very important when it comes from a performance basis. So I would say, from a parent's perspective, I feel the parent support is the first most important thing, because without that, you are never going to get into the sport. First of all, you need to have passionate parents to kind of be in the sport for sure. It's 100% sure. Nobody else can guide you apart from them, and to have that freedom of trying things in sport is very important. If they are able to take you for different sport, make you play different sport, is very important. Especially, I feel that will give you a lot of freedom, from a fact saying that you will learn a lot of new skills, and that will definitely help you over the years. uh, but from an expectation basis, I think that they need to understand how this works from a whole system perspective, from a sporting perspective, and keep supporting them how much ever they can. And they itself will know if, when there is a barrier, or when they see that uh, my kid is not able to go beyond this level, then there is a decision making which they need to do. And if they think that my kid is not good enough to play sport at this level, then they can take that call, and they can mutually get into something else. So I think that's how it needs to work. And
I mean, I'm going to come back to your same story, the
yeah,
story that you said where your parents were in doubt, but you
yeah,
took ownership and said, "I want to give it a shot." And that's a really pivotal part in an athlete's journey, is where the transfer of ownership goes from the parents to the athlete on their career, where now they have to take ownership and make sure that they do what they need to do, and that hunger that we talk about an athlete needs. A lot of times that ownership doesn't transfer from the parents to the kids. Even through their career, the parents are the ones keeping the
keeping
ownership.
the, yeah, yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
No, I would say luckily I knew that my dad is going to be in my side, because I tell this, my dad would be happy. So that was a plus point, to be honest. So I had to only convince my mom, because my mom, being a teacher, being a chemistry teacher back in the days, I knew that the decision was going to be tough. So for me, it was a little easy from a convincing perspective, saying that I will do this for 2 years and see. But I'm sure, as you said, it is very tough to kind of convince a lot of parents when you are at that age, say 15 or 16, when you are trying to take a decision making, and they are saying that, "No, this is not going to do good for you." And I've seen a lot of them kind of say bye to the sport at that age, because
Yeah.
they feel that they're not going to get support from home, because you definitely need support from home from a monetary basis at that point,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
just can't go say from a rebel perspective and say that no, I'm going to go Hyderabad or Bangalore or some other place and train there alone, which is nearly impossible. So
Ends quickly.
it ends quickly. I mean, and I think hardly you can sustain for
I
a
think
good
it's the
2 3
emotional
months.
support.
It's I think emotional support, because you know that whatever happens, they're going to come back to you and help you in whatever ways they can. So I think it's really important to convince them as well,
Yeah.
but you need to know the knack also from a kid's perspective on how to do it very politely, and see how you can do it, because I've seen a lot of them who are very good at studies and sport, and that's where the things goes really tough. And if somebody is really good and only in sport, then I feel the decision making is much more easier. But when things are like this, then it's important to kind of hear what your heart says and what you want to do as well at that time.
But I think it's also partly the Indian societal makeup where you have to finish your 12th by a
Yeah,
certain
yeah,
age, then you have to do your bachelor's, and you have to do your master's by a certain age.
yeah.
If you remove that restriction, like what your parents did, saying that go give it a shot for 2 years, and then if it doesn't work out, you come back and study. The parents were actually open-minded, saying that it's not a big risk.
Yeah.
2 years earlier on in your career, it's not going to change your life if it doesn't work out, but you may learn important lessons along the way, which will ultimately help you make better decisions in life.
Yeah, we need to have that kind of a system change
Yeah.
as well. I feel definitely it's time.
Mindset, no, system supports it.
System supports, but I'm saying I mean, it doesn't mean that it supports always. I remember I was in Kendriya Vidyalaya from 1 to 11th, and I couldn't continue because I couldn't continue because I had to keep traveling for sport. They said you can't stay in our school, or you can study in our school for the next couple of years. So that support is not what you expect
Sure.
from a schooling side, right? Where you're playing for the country, and still you're in a position where you're trying to find a new school in between 11th, right? So I feel that kind of a system needs to change, where somebody who is doing so well at sports needs to be given that support straight away from a schooling side, because that will give a lot of what do you say, hope to the next generation as well, who is coming from, say, third class, fourth class, to even think that okay, if we excel in sport, then there is a chance to kind of take it as profession.
But don't you think it'll be a little counterintuitive?
It is always counterintuitive, and I mean,
Because the school's job is to give education.
it is
If
true.
the athlete is not there, you're not really giving them education, but you're giving them support in form
So
of a document which they can't necessarily honor.
it is true. It is true. But I'm
I'm
saying,
being devil's advocate.
yeah, from a country where we want to become a sporting country, I think these are the changes which we need. And when we look at from a Japan or China perspective, everything is associated with school and colleges,
Yeah.
and you don't have national team direct or straight away. Things start from school. They have a school team, then it comes to a national, then it comes to a college team, then from college team you are chosen to be in the national team.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the system which comes in, right?
Yeah.
That shows how much of support they're giving from straight away from the schooling side of, from a sporting side of it.
Correct.
I'm not looking at from an education side.
I think those systems are developed keeping sports in mind.
Yes.
Whereas our systems are developed keeping only education
Only
in mind.
education.
And now we're trying to jugad it for sports.
Yeah.
Whereas what we
It
need
needs
is
to be, yeah, it needs streamlined in a much better way,
Correct.
where all of them are getting that support. Even
Yeah.
if like somebody wants to study, yes, definitely they need to get support from a studying perspective. But somebody feels like, okay, I can do better in sports, there should be an option in that side also, is what I'm trying to refer.
Yeah,
Because that will definitely give us the number of kids who are coming from a certain places. That number will definitely go higher. Like from a fact saying that we are such a um, uh, a say country where we have so much of population, but still we don't have that many numbers coming in from
Yeah.
an Olympic perspective. I feel the start needs to be from the school, and that's where the numbers are coming, right?
Yeah.
Then we filter it straight from the school, but unfortunately we're filtering it right now post your 21 22, right? So
I
think
think
that's where
India in a lot of sports will be a top-down approach and not be a bottom-up approach. What I mean by, the
One person
first,
succeeds.
it's the tournaments at the top level and the kind of recognition and monetary compensation you get at that level will start trickling down to making
yeah.
sure that, okay, now the school wants it to be a prestige project.
Prestigious, yeah.
And we have a couple of schools now in Bangalore that are looking at sport as a prestige project, and hence we will all support the athlete as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. So I think that is very I would say I'm not a big fan of that kind of a system.
Sure.
Because that will not give you numbers anytime, and you need to have a number of 100 kids where you need to be able to find that good 10-15 champions out of it. It cannot be 15 good players and then
Sure.
out of that you find one or two, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it is happening like
You
that.
want diversity of competition
You
too.
need diversity of competitions, and for that you need support, because playing a sport these days is not easy from a cost side of it, and,
Absolutely. Especially in the metros and urban centers.
especially from a metro
Where the
side
numbers
of
are
it,
there.
where the numbers are there, and it all depends on how your family background is.
Yeah.
If your family background is good, okay, you are able to play a sport. If you're not able to play a sport, or say if your family background is not good, then it's straight away that okay, you don't have a choice, that you cannot play a sport. So it's something like that at this point, which I think which we need to straight away change from a schooling side, and probably 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, we'll have the numbers to kind of uh, choose from, so that we can choose people from that number, which unfortunately we don't have right now.
We have a lot of people, but it's just not
No,
being
Yeah.
So
identified. And
I think the main thing would come from, although the urban centers have a lot of people, majority of our star athletes come from smaller towns
Smaller
and smaller
towns.
villages.
Yes.
And they lack infrastructure, they lack competition, but what they make up is with that hunger and
Hunger and
drive
the willpower. Yeah.
kind of make it out. Whereas urban centers, I think if you go to any badminton academy in any of the
It's
major
full.
metros, it's full.
It's full. Yeah.
So competition is there. The kids are there. Coaching level also is fairly decent compared to our others. But we're not able to create those champions that come
champions.
from
Yeah.
the smaller cities.
True.
So that balance between where do we invest
Yeah.
resources for if we want to create champions in urban centers where we can get volume, or we get the personality that is needed that can be groomed into a particular sport of choice.
Yeah. I think it's a very long process
Yeah.
coming into that side of it, but I think it all starts from a schooling side of it, and then even if it's rural or urban, I think it all starts from that side, and then we should be able to pick and choose people from there, give
Yeah.
them good opportunities, let them have that freedom to perform, and give them some time for sure, like 3 years, 2-3 years, where they're able to show their skills, and then you can take a decision on them at that point.
I think China has a fabulous system.
China
when
has a
it comes
fabulous
to
system of doing that,
identifying
yeah,
talent for particular
identifying,
sports.
yeah.
We may not agree with all their processes.
Yeah,
but
and
from
I think I was speaking to one of the doctors during the Olympics, and he was telling the same thing, saying the schooling system and the SNC system goes hand in hand in a lot of European places, where they kind of find the right people for right sport. If somebody is very good at upper body strength, then it is they think that okay, she's good for a rowing kind of a sport,
Yeah.
and then they try to develop that that kid for that particular sport straight away when she's 10 or 12.
Yeah.
And one example she gave us, he gave us the exact same case of one kid being in UK, I think. She was 10 or 12 years old, and I think the SNC said that she can be a good rower because of her good upper body strength, and they worked together for good 4 years, and she played her first Olympics, not even a national tournament, where she has, or because 4 years before she has never done rowing in her life, and then they kind of saw her, they knew that she can do something. After 4 years down the line, she's playing in Olympics for GB and Team GB, and that shows how a certain kind of system is working at certain places, where I feel SNC is a big importance which is given to a lot of in a lot of countries, where from a talent scouting, and how do they find the right talent for right sport, and then they don't do anything else, they just kind of push them on that particular sport itself.
Yeah, I think China does this. China's looking for the 1% of 1%. So, like a lot of their talent scouting is based on the same fact, right? They go from school to school.
Yeah.
They'll profile
I think I've
them.
seen some videos also where they see the weightlifting pose, and
the weightlifters are famous for it. They see who can squat, who has biomechanics for something.
who has a good glute strength and all those things.
Exactly, they'll make them do that. But what they're looking at again is, okay, where do you have the highest chance of success, and where can we give you the resources to achieve that success at the international stage, right?
Yeah.
it's not by chance that it happens,
Yeah.
right? If your body is supporting you, you have the right physiology for it, you automatically have a leg up at least in one
One
department.
department. Yeah.
Then it's a matter of all the other, nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
But if the nature department is already in your favor, now it's about nurture.
You know, one thing less to kind of
Compete
Worry
on.
about.
worry
Yeah.
about. Yeah.
And you're talking about top, I think 0.1% of the world
Yeah.
that is competing
Yeah.
in the
On
Olympics,
the
and out
Olympics.
of
Yeah.
that 1%.
1%. Yeah.
So you want everything in your favor at that point in time. At those odds, you wouldn't buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah. True.
Highest probabilities of success.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think kind of running back to what you had spoken about. I mean, I've also seen this over the years with training is that you enjoy playing other sports. You used to play it as a kid, but even now, whether it's playing some tennis, smashing your tennis around tournaments, or playing football when you can, or cricket. How do you think playing other sports kind of impacted you in terms of badminton, in terms of physical development?
I think back in the days, I was mad about cricket and football, especially cricket. And I used to love bowling more than batting, which was a little surprising for me as well, because I was very interested to know why there used to be a outswing and inswing, which was very interesting for me at that time. I used to think that it's just a red ball, and why sometimes it's going outside, one sometimes it's coming inside. So we used to just play with friends in Trivandrum, and I used to play almost every day, kind of. And then you buy red balls, and then you try looking at the TV on what they do, and then you realize that okay, this is why an um, a swing happens. So I think these things are very interesting for me at that point, and because of that, I would say I developed a lot of shoulder strength at that perspective. I never used to do any weight training until I was 16 because my dad never knew anything about weight training at that perspective. The only thing which we knew was to just run.
You should
Go,
train at the beach.
yeah, go to beach, go to stadiums, run for sit and rounds, half an hour, and do some jumps. So all those things were the only thing which we would do when we were young, because nobody was there to guide us from a strength perspective. And I think the first time when I did a gym was when I was in Hyderabad.
Okay.
And when I saw what they were doing, I was wondering, will I even fit in to be in
Yeah, you
this
told me
camp,
you said
right?
the first day, first
Yeah,
few days was tough.
and we had to do weights and then run at that point in Hyderabad. So getting back to the to my young age, I would say playing all these sports definitely got me better, especially in what do you say, from a shoulder strength, definitely yes. But from coordination perspective also, I think a lot of things you learn through that friends group, through that friendship, playing a lot of different types of games. I think back in the days we have all the 70s and all these small games which you all used to play very regularly. But I think it's really important to play all those with your friends generally, because you feel, first of all, you are happy doing that. Then you develop a lot of these kind of coordination skills back in that young age itself, and that definitely helps when you are getting older, because I've seen a lot of players who are not able to play a lot of easy sport just because the coordination levels are not great. uh, Maybe you are playing a different sport, say badminton or something, but you should be able to play a lot of different sport in a decent level, is what I feel, which is very important
So like general coordinative
from a
abilities.
general coordinative effect, to know how in what speed that ball is coming, so that you can hit that ball. Or from a football perspective also, how do you learn to control the ball, to pass the ball? I think all these things are very basic when you look at it, but I think from a sporting side of it, I just feel it is very very important, and that has definitely helped me. I've always realized that over a period of time, whenever you get onto the court post injuries, the coordination levels are still okay. Whenever you are out of the sport for 6 months, 1 year, you always feel that, will I be able to touch the shuttle? Will I be able to move? Okay, that is always a question comes there, but it was always okay for me. And so in that way, I would say it has definitely helped me from that perspective.
From that perspective, yeah. And I think also, I don't know how many people know about it, but a lot of the things that you've gotten kind of famous for, like your backhand or the smash, or a lot of them I mean, of course, you had a lot of good coaches who helped to correct things a lot, but a lot of them was actually watching movement and obsessively watching DVDs of players who used to do it at a high level and then copying them until you were able to get it in your body to a certain large extent.
Yeah, I think one of the qualities for me, straight from when I was young, was to kind of sit and watch matches, and to kind of the one thing which I always wanted to do was to kind of copy the style, not just the top players, but I remember going into the All India tournaments and seeing the under 19 players playing at that time. It was just too good, to be honest, because we had very skillful players in the past, especially from an under 19 and senior side. I think the skill level was just next level, to be honest. We don't see that kind of a skill players at this point,
Not anymore.
unfortunately.
Okay.
So there used to be way too many skill players at that point, and so when I used to kind of finish my matches, I used to sit in the stadium and watch all these under 19 matches late at night and 7-8 p.m. And wanted to kind of replicate how they used to play. And that was straight from that age. I wanted to play like each and every player. And if you still ask me how they used to play, I can still show on code how
You
used
can
to
do
play.
the same thing for bowlers also.
Yeah, bowlers also. So I think it's been one of those what do you say, talents, or I don't know. Luckily, I had that, and probably that has helped me to kind of play very long in badminton, to kind of extend my career also pretty long, because I watch what's happening around. And if you even ask me what an under 13 player or under 16 player is playing in our academy, what is his problem, I can probably tell, because I think that is an inbuilt kind of a character, say, which I have developed over the years, where I see people um, uh, very keenly and see what's happening. So I think that also has helped kind of understand how the sport works, how certain players win, why do they win. All those answers come through that observation only. And unfortunately, we see a lot of players don't do it right now. They don't observe the things. They think that it's probably waste of time, saying that what others do is not going to help me. I have to do what I have to do. But I think you can learn a lot of things from what others do, even though you might be a senior player. I think you can see a lot of good strokes played by an under 16 player. And I would say, I can very openly say that I'm still not able to play those shots right now. So it's a learning kind of a thing every single day, where you might get into a court and you might see somebody random come in, play a certain shot, and you'll be like, okay, this is a nice shot, you can also try doing that shot. So I think it's, from a sport basis, it's really important to know that you have play, even if you have played a certain level, you have to keep learning, and there are opportunities to keep learning, because opportunities keeps coming in right in front of you sometimes, but you try to neglect it most of the time. But if you're able to catch hold of even one shot, that might be your winning shot in probably some other tournament. So
Somewhere.
yeah, so I think I truly believe in that kind of a thing. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, coming back to a previous conversation where we're talking about, again, you played a lot of multiple sports, and the thing is, most sports have within the confines of the rules, there are multiple tactics that you can play in those sports, and each sport will teach you a certain tactical game that you need to play in that sport.
Yeah.
Right, and then you have you sitting and watching videos and trying to mimic the moves, but while doing that, you're also watching the games and how they're going about winning. Right, so, and what has probably been one of the biggest contributors for your longevity in the sport is the tactics that you play, right? Because tactics is at the highest level, it's more about tactics than the skill level, more or less, is at the same level. At the highest, top 10, pretty much everyone's on point on skill. In terms of fitness, pretty much everyone's. It's the tactics that they play and the moments that you have to be able to choose to push or to play defensive. So what tip would you give, so from a tactical standpoint? Because I feel like we're in a generation where the kids are not being taught how to think. I'm not talking about only sport. They're being coached on what they need to do, not why they need to do things. Right. So assuming at some point in the future you plan on becoming a coach or a mentor to somebody, how would you go about this journey slightly differently?
Yeah, as you said, like from a physical basis, now everybody is focusing on from a physical side of the game, and everybody wants you to make fit. Everybody wants you to run around, but I can see a lot of players doesn't know what is the meaning of doing one shot. why are you doing that one shot? I think, as you said, it is very important to teach them why are you doing that shot. It might be lift in badminton, it might be something else in some other sport, but it's very important to tell them you are doing this shot to make sure that you do something else, right? That is missing,
Like a setup.
like a setup, and that is missing from a half of the players doesn't know that. Half of the players are a little bit skilled on that side of it, who are able to sustain badminton at highest level. Even though their fitness is a little lower, they can still sustain because they know the idea of the game. Sure. On if I play this shot, okay, this shot might come in. A lot of players are very calculative in that. They are very brilliant. But some people are not brilliant like that, but you will have to teach them. But unfortunately, that is lacking in our system as well, where you will have to teach them on why you need to do that and when to do that. So I think over a period of time in my career also, I think have realized that skill has a limit, and then on top of that you will have to work hard on that skill, and otherwise that skill level will not take you to the next level. And if you ask me from a skill basis, I don't think I'm very skilled from a badminton side of it.
That'd be funny to hear for a lot of people. Because
Yeah, it is. I mean, when I compare with a lot of my competitors, I feel I hardly have any skills. I just have, I just be there on the court and I try to retrieve as many shuttle as possible. But you have to understand very early in your career, saying what kind of a player you are, and by seeing a lot of plays, you'll understand that very quickly. And then you'll have to understand that you'll have to make sure you are going to be the number one player in that kind of a game. Otherwise, you don't have a chance. So I think over a period of time, I thought that okay, this is what my limitations are. This is what I'm good at. I'll have to keep working at what I'm good at. Is there going to be limitations? People might tell you thousands of things, but eventually you have to win a match, right? So how do you do it? It's
there are many ways to do
there
it.
are many ways to do it.
So do you go about profiling your competitors and then matching your, you know how we do it in FIFA, no? And then you look at your team, you look at the stats, you see where you're strong, where the opposition is weak, and okay, let me position in such a way that I have an advantage in that side of the field. Simplistically put.
Simplistically, if you ask me, yes, when you train, like especially back in the days 2010 plus 2012 to 2017, 18, I would say I was probably the 10th player in the academy, where we had almost good 10 players in men's singles playing ahead of you. Every single day you are coming into the session thinking, okay, you are the 10th player. So how do you get into the 9th or 8th? So this is the constant process when I was training at that point. And there used to be game sessions where the first, second, I mean, whoever wins are going to be in that order for the next week's training.
Yeah.
So you are trying hard to be in that first 6 or 5, right? But it's very tough to be in that top 5, top 6. But I think that gave a lot of learning at that point, from a fact saying that what are you good at and what are your friends better at.
Nice choice.
So you get dejected a lot of times because you feel that why are they able to play that shot very easily?
Sure.
Like I've seen a lot of players play a lot of shots very easily, and we keep saying that they can hit a smash on the line even when they're in sleep.
Yeah.
Certain players, their hands are so fixed, so good. But for somebody like me, if I don't play for a week, 2 weeks, I have to again keep training for that shots.
Yeah.
And I have to get it right. And that is a tough part. And I don't see them even training for that shot, right? So then it becomes very irritating, the fact saying that how are they able to do it. But then I later realized that there is no point in getting irritated because they have something which they are good at, but there are a few things which they are not good at also, which you realize, right? Then I said, okay, I am good in that side of it, which is probably playing patiently, which is probably playing long matches, all those things which I felt that I was good at. So I have to only look at that. If you start thinking at this side, then you're never going to improve. So I think I kept it in that way so that my mental space was in much better way, in a much better side of it. Yeah.
But I think this is a really important thing to highlight because a lot of times, like you mentioned, that the ones who are good at under 13, under 15 rarely make it to success in their seniors. Because what worked for them at under 13 and under 15 and where they were winning, they never had to develop other skills because they could get by on one or two trump cards. They would get by and they would win. By the time you're 18, 19, everybody's physically developed.
Yeah.
Everybody has one or two trump cards. Now it's your ability to create more out of what you already have.
Like you, I think you got a right point there, because I've had so many players which I've seen just very good at that age range, 16 to 19 or 15 to 19, and they were so good in their basics. They could just play anything at that point, and they could win tournaments very easily. Then suddenly, when there was a resistance which was coming post 2021, then you don't know how to handle it.
You can't reinvent
Yeah,
yourself.
you can't reinvent yourself, and then you don't want to put in that grind also.
Yeah.
Like mentally saying that I've done it in the past in this way and I've had success this way. Why should I change it at this point?
You're evolved the way you're kind of thinking.
Yeah, so I mean, it is very tough to evolve also when you have done it like that. Like if you have not done it, then you think that okay, anyways, I'm not done it at that age. Let me try something else now.
Exactly.
So probably I was in that
You
side
were more
of it.
adaptable because you had
Not
to.
adaptable, true. So that I would say that is probably a blessing in disguise if you have not won anything in under 13, under 16, because you don't keep yourself there.
Yeah.
You know that okay, you
still need to work.
you still are somebody who are playing first round, second round. So if you want to win something, you have to win big.
Yeah.
But for them, probably I feel over a period of time they feel that okay, you are one of the top players. You don't have to do anything extra to kind of suddenly play at the senior level. But when the senior level comes in, then there is a lot of people which comes in with different types of
Skills,
game
games,
style,
yeah.
play, physicality. The stadiums are much different when you go outside. Then it is kind of reinventing yourself to kind of adapt to that kind of situation. So I think that is something which we see very often in the circuit, and
Yeah.
I wish it doesn't happen to a lot of people where they decide to kind of quit the sport when they're 21, 22 only, saying that okay, I'm done with the sport. I hope that they still try to kind of reinvent themselves and try to
Yeah,
put
so
in that
one of the
grind.
things that, because I mean, we deal with like so many other sports and we have kids of all ages come in, and typically when parents say, no, he's not winning anything at this point in time, and not having too much success right now,
Yeah.
this, that, and I'm like, great. He has a good chance he'll be successful internationally if he's not winning right now.
Yeah,
If he's winning everything right now, your odds are limited.
We can send them this podcast.
It's just that.
But then how do you guys convince the parents to continue?
So it's the decision to continue should always be there with the athlete, because ultimately the biggest sacrifice is the athletes. Being the top 1% sounds great once you reach there, but along the way you'll have more losses than you'll have wins anyway. That's why you appreciate the wins when you have it. So the question is there a fight in the dog or is there a dog in the fight?
Fight.
Right, you have to kind of figure that out, and that has to come from the child. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, everybody else is a support system. The main show is the kid,
Main guy, yeah.
right? And irrespective of anything, if there is a fight in the dog, then he can do something and we can all support.
All support,
Otherwise, we're not supporting anything. We're supporting somebody who wants to know.
Mhm.
So the whole system is to figure out, okay, does the kid want it bad enough to go and take it, right? No one else can take it for them. And not having, and that's what the whole thing, right? Not having success now is a question of
Question,
that.
yeah.
Do you have it in you to go and take it? Because you're not going to win. Every level you go, you're going to have more losses than wins anyway,
yeah.
right? You'll only have a series of wins where you're playing really well for a short period in
period
your
of time.
career. Probably 5%,
5%,
probably 10%.
yeah.
And then you go to the next level.
Next level.
And then again, you have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
So winning is not a criteria for success.
Yeah.
And winning early is definitely not a criteria for success.
Yeah.
Right? If you can win at 13, 15, what does it mean for you in your career? If anything, you've given up your studies also now because you've had success, you're very good at it, and you've given up your studies also. And then you soon reach seniors, you realize I don't have studies also, and I don't have the ability to go to the next level also. Now I'm left in no man's land.
Yeah.
So
no, if you ask us the question, what do we do with parents? It really depends on the situation. But if there are young kids, if it's not an early specialization sport, first of all, you encourage them to play other sports also. And academic side, you say, okay, take care of it. Don't just like laid by the side. We need intelligent athletes also.
Yeah.
Especially in something like badminton, for example. Some athletes are very intelligent, and that's why they're able to outsmart their opponents.
Yeah.
Not necessarily more skilled, not necessarily more physically dominant, but they can figure out how to outsmart their opponents. And the academic side sometimes helps with it, of course. But that athlete being independent to be able to take that decision on the court. Okay, your coach might be sitting behind you in the badminton thing, but end of the day, you're the one executing. You have to make that decision in milliseconds to be able to do that. So if you're able to build those aspects, then it transfers to other aspects of life also. So if you don't succeed in life, you're also building kind of health and fitness aspects which are there over time. But you have to have some amount of success. If it's too much success, then it's a problem.
That is a problem.
But if you have no success, then it's very unlikely that the kid itself or the parent will be motivated to keep them going.
Yeah, so typically there's a stat by one of the famous coaches, I don't remember who. So you need to have close matches 60% of the time. You need to get defeated badly 20% of the time, and you need to win convincingly 20% of time.
Okay.
If you can do this over a period of time, you have a very high chance of being a competitive athlete at a high level.
Okay, I've never heard of this stat, but
so 60% it has to be a fight, like very close matches, just winning, just losing. 20% someone needs to come and really humble you, like treat you, like beat you really badly. And 20% you need to be able to dominate the opposition. If you can get this stat down, then you have a chance where you're constantly competing and looking at competing. You're never looking at turning these ratios any other way.
I think switching gears a little bit in terms of talking about your evolution, there are various things that you've added from of course, as a kid playing multiple sports, doing different things badminton wise, observing and constantly looking at where you can learn. But you've also done other upgrades, I guess, to HSP or evolutions in terms of what you're looking at, be it with physical training, be it with nutrition, with mental conditioning, physio recovery, all of those aspects. When you talk about these aspects, how do you think they have kind of helped you along the way in different parts of your career, and how has it kind of shaped you to where you are right now? Because I understand, okay, we worked on different aspects of this as well, but from your perspective, what do you think? How have these added value to you for the sport of badminton and to what you're playing right now?
well, I think first thing is from a sports person, I think it's really important to explore whatever options you have, which is very important in your entire career graph. I think it's really important to know if you have been able to take the correct choices at the correct time. I don't know if I took the correct choices correct time, but I think I've been able to at least convince myself in the fact, saying that it's okay to kind of fail, and but I want to try this trainer or this physio or this psychologist. And so I think over a period of last, say from 2010, I would say last 14 years of my being in the senior circuit, there have been injuries, especially in the first half of 2010 until 2018, which was bad injuries. So then you try to understand why the injuries are happening, which sometimes it takes years to understand, to know how your body functions. And I feel over a period of time, you've tried to find the right people for you, and it might not come all of a sudden. Like all of a sudden, you go to some place and you feel that, okay, this is the right person for me. It never happens like that. But you have to give them that opportunity to work with you, to understand what it is. You learn from them. Then you realize at a certain point, saying, are we going at the right direction? Be it a sensei, be it a nutritionist, be it from a psychologist side, are we going at the right direction? Am I improving from any perspective, or am I getting stagnant at some point? So I think the first few years I felt people couldn't explain it to me why I'm doing this. For me, it is very important to know why I'm doing certain kind of training, why I'm doing this course right now, or whatever it is. So for me, it was very important back in the day itself, saying, why am I doing this? Say from a physio perspective, also I keep asking them questions.
Oh, you do. I've
saying that why are we doing this release for this pain? So they explain it to me. Okay, this is how it is done, so that you know that, okay, this is how your body works. It's not necessary that for everybody they are going to do the same kind of a treatment for one pain. So that I realized over the time. And then I think getting into Invictus, and from getting, or say, coming into Bangalore to explore more options, was definitely post COVID. I think we worked before also. 2018 was the first time when you guys came in, and we worked for a while. And But then I couldn't get convinced at that point, definitely. But then post COVID, I think I felt that from a player perspective, I had to redo a lot of things, and I felt that it is no more what's happening on court. It is all which is revolving around the court, because a lot of times you don't want to commit yourself saying that I'm doing wrong, or say I'm doing right on the court, and it is kind of things which are going off on the court. You're always trying to say that, okay, I'm not training enough on the court, that is why I'm not able to play well. And
So I'll train more.
a lot of years just goes past like that, where you're trying to convince yourself saying that you better do a smash net dribble, or a multi feed, so that you can improve your speed. But after a while, then you realize that, okay, it is not here, it is something which is behind the scenes, which we need to change so that it will change in the court. So I think that's tried little later for me, probably in 2020, and that's when we started to work again. And I wanted to kind of explore what all options we had from a psychologist perspective, and from a body perspective, on to see how I can get better from a health wise. And I felt that it was high time that I focus more on my body, and which will eventually lead me to play better on court. So in that way, I would say last 4.5 years, there's been a lot of changes which we have done. And from an SNC perspective, which I think I've been working with Rohan for the last good 3.5 4 years continuously, right? I think almost every day we have been doing a session, apart from the breaks. But I think what we changed over the years, which I felt, was the micro training which we have been able to do from a long term perspective, which I never did in the past. We always used to do heavy weight sessions for, say, 2 or 3 sessions, 2 or 3 max in a week. Then we never used to do small sessions from a strength perspective, and we always used to think that that is good enough to kind of get the entire season along. But unfortunately, that used to only last for 3 or 4 months, because you're continuously on the tour, right? And so I think the one thing which kind of entirely changed my performance, I would say, is the micro training which we started to do. Even if it's a 20-minute session on a day, I think that was very important for me to kind of be in the shape for a longer period of time. And I think that 20 minutes kind of accumulated over a period of time to kind of give that strength. So now, even if I don't train for 2 weeks, I don't feel much difference. I can come back and be at least in a certain level, which was missing in the past. So I felt that there was a need to be in a certain level of fitness. Even if we are out for a week, 10 days, you should be coming back to a certain level of fitness. I think this kind of a training kind of changed the whole uh, 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 way of me building that strength. And I think that really helped. And from a fact, saying that a lot of smaller things were giving more attention rather than the bigger things, especially from an SNC perspective, to improve on smaller muscle strength, to be able to do very basic things rather than be able to do bigger things, change the whole perspective. And I think that gave a lot of confidence, first of all, to kind of start doing very, very small things over a period of time.
Sometimes frustrating things.
Sometimes very frustrating, but then you think back, and then you see, if you're not even able to do this, then why are you even doing that? So I think that is very important. I think for not just for me, I think this, I feel, for a lot of players, they need to kind of address the issue, saying that are they able to do a very basic exercise in a correct form for a longer period of time. If that you are able to do, then you can progress to the next level. But unfortunately, we have that kind of a miss from a strength and conditioning. So I would say these were the major changes for me in the last 3-4 years. And definitely uh, getting Alia from PhD also was kind of very refreshing to the fact, saying that there was a lot of new things which we tried over a period of time to understand how my body works. Now I know exactly how my body works. And
it's a process of kind of you've learned.
You learned, yeah. If I think it should be really important for any top player, if you go and if you ask them, they should be able to tell, okay, this is what happens if I do this. So I think you should be very crystal clear on that. It's not all about playing on the court. That you will anyways figure out if you are a good player, but that will only last for a while, I feel. But if you want to come back each and every time to that level, then you need this information. And,
especially to play in your 30s, the best of badminton.
Definitely,
ever played.
because I've seen a lot of players who are very good for a probably good 5-6 years. Then you are out for a certain period of time. Then when you come back, then you don't know what to do so that I can get back to that level. So that is because the information is not there on what your body can do best. So if they're able to do that, then I think they can just prolong their career for much longer and good 3-4 years more. And I don't think 30 is a number right now these days.
Yeah,
with the science.
not anymore.
And you have people like LeBron and Tom Brady.
Yeah, I think everybody is breaking it.
You have Joko, your favorite Joko, is playing.
Joko is, So I think it's just a number where people are trying to kind of pull you down when you reach 30. To be honest, that is the first thing. When you reach to 30, people are like, okay, you need to retire after 30. And but I think I think a lot of players can play much better in 30 because eventually you will understand. Okay, this is what it is. 1 + 1 is equal to 2. You will eventually crack that code. So I feel so those were the changes which has happened in the last 4 years, but I think still a long way to kind of understand how I can do it very systematically and very consistently, which I'm not able to do a lot of times. I think that is what you will have to learn over the period of time, and probably top 2-3 are able to do that in the world. They are able to consistently hit that goal about taking care of themselves in a much better way. So I think probably way behind in that aspect as
no, I think also kind of using that to circle around into, I think when you first came in 2021, that was when the COVID Olympics, Tokyo Olympics was happening, and it was. I don't think you started off in that whole thing saying, okay, I'm going to play at Paris 2024. I'm going to play a World Championship and win a medal, Asian Games medal. None of that was there. But kind of year to year, what do you think were the evolutions and changes in your training, in terms of your mindset, in terms of how you're going in, building up to that whole, thing of Paris 2024?
As I said, there was no particular aim to kind of fulfill, to be honest, because I felt I was way below when we started working again. The only thing which I was telling myself that I can feel that there is much more left in me.
You have a few more years left at least.
Not few more years. I feel there is a lot of good badminton left in me. But I realized that if you want to play badminton, then you need to be healthy first.
Of course.
But before that, it was all about how do you play badminton. But I think over a period of time from 2021 to then when I started playing a little decently well in 2022, I realized that it's important to consistently hit what we are training. It needs to be consistently coming in the tournaments. But that will take some time. I was kind of patient enough to understand that it will take little time to kind of convert it into a match situation. I slowly started to convert into a match situation, and then that's when you get confidence also, right? Saying that what all you're doing is working as well from a on-court basis.
That's right.
And I think from 2022 to 2023, probably one of my best years were 2023 with consistent good results. And but I think all the work was done probably 2 years before that. And 2023 came in where I knew that I had to hit a patch where I need 1 or 2 good tournaments. Then it will continue for the next 5 to 6 tournaments. And you don't have to do anything. You just go and play. It will come. And it is automatic when it comes to badminton because it is a very confidence-based sport. And so I think we hit that patch in 2023, getting from Malaysia, Australia, then Asian Games and World Championships. I think that graph was going really well, obviously, but then there are going to be hiccups at some place, and I expected it to happen at some point or the other. But unfortunately, it happened at this year starting, and then we couldn't come out of it as quickly as possible. But But that's how the sport works. And I would say I was not really disappointed with the way things went this year uh, because 2 years down the road, I think we were continuously hitting good space of badminton, and I wish that it would have happened this year, but that's not how things happen, right? So sometimes I feel that this is also a learning experience, that you still learn how to kind of deal with this kind of a situation, and then come out of it. Probably something bigger is waiting for you, because if I had thought the same thing in 2020, 2021, then I don't think I would have had good 2-3 years of that. So right now you feel that there's nothing right going in your way, but you have to accept that in a sportsman's career, these are the graphs which is going to come in. There's going to be up, there's going to be a down, but the most important thing is you can't uh, let it go when you're down, and you just have to believe that things will come in place. And I always believe that it's just 6 matches in a tournament, which is again going to get back to where you're going to be, and it's just 6 days of good badminton, and you don't have to worry about a lot of things. It's just 6 straight days of badminton. So yeah, anything can happen if you're able to do that.
Yeah, that's definitely something to learn from. A lot of people can learn from that. I mean, going through different types of adversities, being whatever COVID, being gut-related issues, or chikungunya, all those things that throw the works. Seems that one of the things is you're able to do is be resilient to kind of a lot of these situations and come out and reinvent yourself every single time.
I think
Somewhere.
that openness to change, right? When things
Yeah,
are
it is. Yeah, it is. I think it is not something which was inbuilt, to be honest. It was very tough to change myself, to kind of accept or to listen to something which is very different. To even understand those things are not easy from a sports person perspective, because you're not studying anything apart from playing.
Yeah.
So to
and it's
understand,
repetitive, doing the same thing.
you're doing the
again and-
same thing, and you need results in
Yeah,
3 days,
Yeah.
4 days.
yeah.
Unfortunately, it doesn't happen also. But sometimes you are not able to convince yourself, saying that it will take time.
Yeah.
For certain process, I still accept saying that I still want results in 3 days.
Sure.
But unfortunately,
that's
back
more
of the mind, I know it is not going to
Yeah,
happen.
but that's more for psychological than
Yeah.
anything. And saying that okay, if I do this, then I will do well.
Yeah,
And
but
if it doesn't work, you know the reality.
yeah, especially when you're injured, or especially when things are not good, then you expect somebody to come in and give you a paper and say, this is what
what you
it
could
is, done.
Yeah, yeah.
1, 2, 3, done.
You want the magic pill.
Magic pill. And your head always want that to happen, saying that in 3 days you have to see the difference. Otherwise, you shift to the next person.
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of effort to kind of be there, uh, understand that okay, this is not going to come in so quickly, and face it also, saying that good 3-4 weeks you are not seeing any difference, but the difference might be coming in the 5th week.
Yeah.
So that patience level also, I think, got really improved because of all these things. I think especially in on-court patience, I would say that has improved because of being in these kind of situations for a very long time, and not finding any solution for a very long time. I think that has helped being on court as well.
Yeah, I'm
So
sure.
come back to like just on the SNC side, you were talking about doing things that frustrated you. I think a lot of the point is that a lot of times when people come into the SNC sessions, they want to do things that make them feel good,
Good.
right? But those are things that you're already strong at.
Strong.
Whereas the focus is on doing the simple things that you're not good at. And that really frustrates and humbles people. But that's where you will get the big benefits. The ones that are already good, you're just trying to get the next 1, 2, 3%. Whereas the basic things that you're not good at are the ones that are really frustrating, because it looks so simple and you should be able to do it at this level. But that's the one Achilles heel that you need to fix. Right? But then that same thing extends to all the things that you were talking about in terms of when you have to reinvent yourself, you have to go back and like the game is sorted. What else is not falling in place that I need to address? And I start looking at all of those basic things that actually are considered basics, but for some reason along the journey have gone out of sync with the rest of the level that I'm playing with.
Yeah, what I feel is being uncomfortable and showing it to people. I think we all are we're not comfortable doing that.
But if you're in the public eye, do you really want to show all your vulnerabilities? You know, you have your group.
I'm just saying about from a being on court perspective or
Correct.
being in a gym perspective.
Right.
It is very tough to be in a position where you cannot do a exercise
Yeah.
mentally. You say that you are playing at this level, still you can't do the small exercise, right? The same thing when it comes to on court as well. I've seen players where they try to save their energy just to show that okay, I'm good in doing the entire program.
Sure.
But I've always felt what is the point of doing that? And I still go there and probably in 5 minutes I get tired. But there is no shame in showing that tiredness is what I tell the juniors also these days, saying there is no shame in showing that tiredness. That shows that you have put in your 100% in that particular drill at that point. The same drill somebody is able to do without getting tired, he might get tired in something else. You never know. It doesn't, like, you try to compare yourself with somebody else in a training ground in those aspects.
Yep. But that's the, like, because it's a conversation we've been having a lot with the younger athletes, right? Where they'll come into
to the back
training
leg.
and then conserve.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I'm like, what are you conserving for? The whole idea of training is to push your limits, push your thresholds. So in a match, you have that much more of a tank and capacity.
Yeah. And because
If
I
you-
also used to be in the same boat, like, you know, saying what will others think? Like, oh, if I get tired in like 5 minutes of corner work, then I'm not fit enough, right? And I'm like later, like, if you're not fit enough, then you improve your fitness, right?
And
In
you
that-
only get fit by
then
putting in the
you get
effort.
fit by doing it better, right?
Yeah.
Or going, if you are doing 5 minutes, tomorrow you do 6 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But then that shift is not happening to a lot of players, unfortunately. They still think that it is a shame to show that you are getting tired or you're not able to do an exercise. I think when I came in, there was a couple of exercises, probably the say the Copenhagen planks and all those things, which was like, I was like, this I should be able to do, right? But I'm not able to do. But it's a shame from when you come in to a new place, to a new site. Then later realize you have to get better at it. I mean, there is no other choice.
The exercise chosen was the ones that you're weak at, not the ones you're good at. So you never, like, whatever you choose, the exercise will be chosen to be the one that you're weak at, never to your strengths.
Nice
So,
thing, yeah.
so if
So
you
that
do
is
a
something,
good SNC session, they will not be playing to your strengths. They will be playing to all the exercises, however basic, that you're weak at.
Yeah.
But that's the missing part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
If you're doing exercises that only make you look good, you're in the wrong SNC session.
Wrong place.
But then I wouldn't say we didn't. We think we did only exercise that you didn't like. I think
No, it's not.
no, because
It's never like that. But obviously, when it comes from a whole, because you remember only that.
those things.
Yeah.
No, so
Your mind only remembers what you couldn't do. You will never think what you could do. But
For sure,
I think
for
my
sure.
mind is
no, but the
that's me.
That's you.
Yeah.
but I think
them remember, don't remember.
Ulta.
that thing.
And those are the ones that you like struggle because the learning is from the things that you're not good at. What you're good at, you already have, you already know. But you only remember the good things and you don't remember all the things that make you better, will make you better. Then you get kind of stagnated at that point because you're ignoring all the faults and all the lessons that you need to learn to go ahead. What you already have, you're happy sitting, you put it on the wall, you keep looking at it every day. But the next step doesn't come from what you've already achieved.
Yeah.
No, I think that's where you kind of highlighted some of it, but it's also like just before matches, just before you're going into tournaments, you always want to feel good. You do the stuff that you're doing, which you're feeling good. Sometimes, okay, you play back-to-back tournaments, one tournament you lose, then you go back to sometimes reinventing those things which are not so good. And that's where I kind of micro-train, because I think one of the things is that for an elite badminton player, your calendar is packed. There is no space necessarily. You have what, max 2 weeks, 3 weeks to train. So you're training in tournament. So you're doing the stuff that you don't like, but you also need to do the stuff that makes you feel good. I think that's kind of
No, one more thing from a player's perspective, what players think is from an SNC side. Or say coach, say from a coach player's SNC, that structure. Is the player getting stronger? The first question is that, right? Is he able to lift this much weight?
Yeah.
I think that concept is only wrong. Like, I feel the first question needs to be, is the player injury free? I mean, that is the first and foremost topic we should be talking at. Is the player able to play the full year?
Yeah.
Without any major injuries? Niggles are keep going to come in.
yeah.
But is it going more than 3 weeks, 4 weeks? Then you're stating it as an injury, right? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, then you're stating it as an injury. Are you avoiding that kind of a situation from a body perspective? Then if that SNC is able to do that, and then I think he's doing his job. Done. You don't think about how much weight he can lift, what is he doing, blah blah blah. That is,
I think this is also partly the SNC's fault, is where they think that performance in the gym is performance on the court.
code. Yeah.
Right? Just because you're doing your PRs and personal best in the gym,
It doesn't mean that they can do convert.
In fact, you're getting all the performance in the gym. On the court, there's nothing left.
Yeah.
On the court, they're going and trying to play, and they're either slow, fatigued, or broken. So the whole idea of the SNC is only to support what is going on in the court.
So I think that shift needs to come in from a mentality thing, like from a player's perspective. I'm saying, like players should think that if I'm able to do with somebody for a long time, then the first criteria is to look at, am I not out of the sport for a very long time? If that is there, then I'm at a good space or I'm at a good place. Then I should continue doing it. If I am able to lift heavy, but still not able to train for more than 2 weeks, then that means there is something which is bothering.
Yeah, and I think this is something that's probably why you said over the years you build like a team around you in terms of the people who are able to work together. But eventually we saw, like, as it went towards the Olympics, a lot of the team members were talking to each other to make sure that, okay, how are we working together? Whether it is a coach, an SNC, physio, all of us, the nutritionists, all talking, being on one page, because eventually you have to play the sport of badminton. And you're looking at how can all of these different things in training be complementary to each other. Others, they can be competitive with each other. It's like, SNC says, I want to lug out this athlete. Badminton coach also be like, let's really push on all fronts. And then athletes not sleeping, not eating properly. It happens. It's not. This is like a reality for a lot of people.
But I think the intention over there, everybody wants to go 110%. But for you, you're just at 1%. If everybody's taking 110%, there's nothing left.
Yeah, I mean, it is a very fine line. And I think 80%, 90% work needs to be done by the player itself.
100%. Negotiation
from a communication perspective, negotiation perspective. And you have to understand that without the team, you cannot perform also. And you are just a player, and you might be around 50%. The rest 50% is done by the entire support team. And what all they are trying to do is only to make sure that you are trying to perform well. Like whatever percentage you want to get better, they are going to do that. But a lot of players are not able to understand that whole equation, and to kind of facilitate that communication is very important. Which will make your life much easier. Like they will, because they are experts in whatever they are doing. Say if Rohan or if Atika or Alia or anybody is trying to work together with a player, then they all have their own, you have studied something which is much above your imagination or what you have played, and they're trying to incorporate on your body, right, and to know what works best for you. So I think you should leave it to them. And I'm sure all the top players are working with a team of people who are good at certain things, and collectively it comes into a picture where you are able to perform well. And I hope that kind of a structure is kind of encouraged more. It is not encouraged too much at this point, where everybody has a team because of certain things. But I think over a period of time, if you want to have that improvement in yourself, which is, it might be 2%, 5%, but improvement is improvement. I always think even it's 1%, that is going to make you never know. You might win one match with that 1%. You might end up playing a final of that big tournament. So
I always say that you need to look at it as a compounding effect as opposed to instant profit. Right? I do one thing and I want to make the returns immediately, as opposed to you're looking at compounding effect that happens with each support system, with each person, and over a period of time. Right? So that compounds to a big number. But if you're looking at quick results, that really never compounds to anything. In more often than not, it throws the entire system off balance. Like, just for the sake of understanding, it's like someone gets you too strong too fast. Your entire game is off. Your coordination is off. Your coordination goes. You're not the same player that you are. So now your skill changes. So now you need to work on your skill again to make up for the new body. Whereas if you're looking at small incremental changes, you can always keep your skill on par with the changes that are happening. And your system is overall, as a person, as an athlete, you're getting better. As a player, you're getting better. As opposed to get really good on one department, but all other departments are suffering.
True.
So, I think we'll being mindful of your time
Pretty
and
much
being
covered.
quite a few things we have covered. There are, of course, we can talk all day, but I think anything that you want to close with, Varun, in terms of. I think we've already spoken about all the things that you want the next generation in terms of advice or otherwise. But is there anything that you would like to kind of, for young badminton players, sporting parents, for people who are getting, who want to reach that elite level in badminton, what do you think? Is there anything that you would like to say to them? Any kind of message that you have for them?
Not much, but I think I would really want to say big thanks to Go Sports Foundation as well, because I don't think I would have had an opportunity to kind of explore these many options uh, if there was no support from them, to be honest, because that is a reality which I have to accept for sure, because somebody who has helped me over 14 years right now. And for you to have a space of mind to even think that okay, I can explore something that needs some level of support, and so they being there for me until now gave a lot of opportunity to kind of speak to a lot of people, understand sport through a lot of different views, lenses. I think that was very important for me to get better over the years. So I think I would really want to say big thanks to them, and kind of things Go Sports is doing for a lot of athletes in the
I mean,
country.
they introduced you to Invictus and the
Yes,
whole
they
system as well.
introduced
Yeah.
me to Invictus, and I'm sure a lot of people, say a lot of athletes, have been able to kind of explore these kind of options through them, which is something big, because if you're in a certain city, it is not really easy to find what's happening in other parts of the country without certain contacts. So I think it's a big bonus for myself, and I think getting into the next generation of players. um, I think the one thing is, I mean, you can't take things for granted at whatever level you are playing, and you take it for granted, then I think you will lose the space as well, like where you lose the sport very very quickly. You might be the number one for a while, but then in no time, you you might not be even playing the sport. So I think it's really important to acknowledge what's coming in, be grateful for, I think, anything which is like good, and then keep working on it, basically. I mean, I think that's really important from a sporting side of it, because there is a lot of uncertainties when it comes from a sport. My dad always used to say that just one single nail is good enough to kind of
Destroy a
make sure
functioning
that
house.
make sure that you never get onto the court again.
Mm.
So make sure that you're not uh, getting this sport too much into your head whenever there is a good success coming into your way, thinking that this is a small thing like a nail can also be a big thing in your career. So I think that I've always kept in mind, and that has always helped whenever things have gone good. I think I've always realized that this is not going to last long, or this is not forever. You have to come back again, work again, to make sure that you are able to keep that spot. Otherwise, somebody else will take your spot. So I think that is something which I will really tell the youngsters also, because I think the careers might be long, whatever happens, but I think it's really important to be a good athlete also. I think everybody should be respecting you from a fact, saying that you have done everything in a sporting way to make sure that you have done justice to your career. And I always believe in that, saying that it's always important to play well, but you should be respected also from the entire community as well. When you even stop playing, I think there should be that respect coming in your way
Mm.
when you stop playing. So I think that is very important, because sport is just probably 10-15 years of your career, and you still have a good 30-40 years to
You
live.
still have
So
other things to do
other
after
things
that.
to do after that.
Yeah.
So I think everything adds up, and it will, some way or the other, it will help you in some place. So it's really important to put that picture above everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. I think you're a player that has been inspiration to a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, because I think that you've had to face different adversity and reinvent yourself. And I don't think this is, I mean, this is another phase in your life where again reinventing yourself, and you still have a lot more things to do, still a lot more things to achieve. Thank you for
Thank you.
taking the time. Thank
Yes.
you for taking time to inspire a lot more people, give a lot more insights on what happens behind the scenes. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
It was fun, to be honest, to kind of discuss all these things, because we've been part of all these discussions in a much more private way. But I think it's good to kind of let people know that what happens behind the scenes as well. People only see when we are playing on court, and when you win something, especially not even play, but when you win something, I think there is a lot of focus on you. But apart from that, I don't think anybody knows what goes back in the gym or goes back during a psychology sessions and nutrition stuff.
I mean, it's a full-time job.
It's a full-time
There's
job.
no work-life balance in sport.
Yeah, I think
Professional athlete.
yeah,
There's no work-life balance in sport.
yeah, I think, but to be honest, I think Rohan, Varun, Alia, and I think all of you guys have become a part of my life, and I think there is a freedom of texting you guys anytime, anywhere in the world to ask any kind of.
Don't tell this to all our other clients.
Yeah. But I
I
can proudly say that.
Don't do this to us. Don't do this
So
to
I
us.
think that I have that freedom of doing that. I think that itself gives a lot of space to work, and I think that's what you want from a team as well. So yeah, thank you so much. Yes.
It's been an honor.
Yes.